The only magazine willing to publish a feature on the Cosmos barely mentioned the sport.
A friend of mine asked me whether I wanted to pose nude in a magazine. I said, dude, you're crazy. He said, no, they pay good money. They pay $5,000 and they're looking for an athlete, a professional athlete in New York. I thought it'd be semi-nude. I thought it'd be a towel or dim lighting or artistic picture. Needless to say, when the magazine hit the newsstand, there was nothing subtle about it. There I was, naked, frontal. It was wild. Man, I didn't think anybody would see it, but the Cosmos saw it. Clive went nuts. I mean, there was no morals clause in the contract, but he said it was disgraceful. I'm a professional athlete. We're trying to be role models. We're trying to sell the sport. We're trying to... I said, Clive, wait, you told me our biggest challenge is to get exposure. I got you more exposure in one centerfold than you've gotten all year.
In 1974, Ross moved the team closer to the city in an effort to attract more fans. The only available venue was Downey Stadium on Randall's Island, just below the Triborough Bridge, connecting the Bronx and Queens with Manhattan.
You know, it's Randall's Island, a prison, and some guy selling hot dogs. That's all. And the field was like broken bottles and dirt, but we thought that was a step up.
I remember having great difficulty getting out of my bed on game days. Really not wanting to go to Randall's Island.
It was not the type of place that you'd play on purpose.
It's Randall's Island where you played all your home games. You might not like the ground, but they like it 50% worse than what you do, or 100% worse. You can do it, but it's up to you.
Randall's Island was quite appropriate, actually, I think, for some of the players we had playing at the time.
The team's fourth season would be its worst yet. 14 losses in 20 games.
We were getting absolutely nowhere. Nowhere. It was hopeless.
Steve Ross would need more than just a game to transform the Cosmos into a major league attraction.
New York, we talk about Joe DiMaggio, and we talk about Babe Ruth, and we talk about Mickey Mantle, and we talk about Joe Namath. And we said, what we really need in this team is a big name player. Clive said to me, well, why don't we talk to this guy, Pelé? I said, well, who's Pelé? I have no idea.
Pelé was Pelé. There was no better player, more spectacular and more famous player in the history of the game than Pelé.
As a boy growing up in the slums of Brazil, he saw his father weep after their country's loss in the 1950 World Cup final. Pelé vowed to win one for his father. 8 years later, at age 17, he became the youngest man ever to win a World Cup winner's medal, leading Brazil to victory. The first of a record 3 World Cup championships.
There was only one player in the world who could break through this crust here of, just antipathy more than just indifference, and that was Pelé.
October 1974, he announced his retirement from his lifelong club, Santos.
Clive came to us one day and said, you know, I think there's a chance of getting Pelé.
Well, that's not quite true. It was my brother who told Steve Ross that we should sign Pelé.
That is the biggest load of nonsense I've heard today. Maybe this week, maybe this year. The idea of signing Pelé was either Phil Woosnam's or mine.
The first approach to Pelé was done in 1970.
Long before anyone at Warner, including Ahmed and Neswi and Steve Ross and everybody else, had ever heard of soccer.
Steve Ross asked Nesui, who is the greatest player? And Nesui said, the greatest player is Pelé.
I gotta just tell you that, and I'm gonna stop for a minute by saying, you don't have to stop the camera, but this is gonna be like Rashomon. Everybody's gonna have a different view of everything. You understand that.
Toye and Woosnam had in fact approached Pelé about coming to America just 1 month after the Cosmos was formed. Toye even insisted the team's colors be yellow, the same as Brazil.
The name, the Cosmos, the city, New York, my face, my name, had been registered, you might say.
In 1971, Toye could only dream of signing a World Cup legend. By 74, he worked for a dream maker and a risk taker.
People around him would say, you know, you can't get there. And he'd say, I don't want to hear about can't. Who is it? Let's try.
When Steve Ross looked at Pelé, he didn't just see the world's greatest soccer player. He saw a global brand. He saw Pelé soccer shoes, Pelé jerseys, even Pelé cologne that Warner's could license to every soccer-playing country in the world. And he also saw something else. He saw television.
He saw a path to what had been promised. Soccer as America's new big league sport.
What's it gonna cost? I mean, that's always the first question.
That's very much the American mentality. If we can't create it, we can assume it, because at the end of the day, it's all about money.
Nestle, myself, and Pelé, Raphael, and I guess Clive met in a seaside resort with a fellow by the name of Shisto, who was Pelé had 32 advisors.
We play soccer with Pelé on the beach. Can you imagine?
That'll be on my headstone. Jay Emmett, played soccer with Pelé.
And by then, Real Madrid and Juventus had started sniffing around. And so I had come up with, if you go to Real or Juventus, all you can win is another championship, whereas if you come with us, you can win a country.
He loved the lure of that. He was going to open a new frontier, and that was America, the great challenge of America.
I called that night, I called Steve Ross, and I said, you know what? I think this guy's gonna play for us. And he couldn't believe it. You know, he could not believe it.
I was negotiating the agreement with Dustin Hoffman for the film called All the President's Men. And then I got a call to see Steve and Jay in their office. And they said, Norman, we want you to go to Brazil and sign a soccer player by the name of Pelé. And I said, okay. I was greeted by a number of paparazzi and other photographers.
People idolized Pelé, as they did all over the world, I suspect. But in Brazil, he was clearly a national treasure, and they didn't want to let him go.
Ross was ready to risk $2 million for 3 years of play. Pelé wanted $5 million for 2 years.
Quite a difference.
There was no way we were going to spend that kind of money, so we called Jay.
They called me at about 2 in the morning, saying, you know, you've got to change the deal a little. I said, hey, listen, Norman, you know what to do. Do what you have to do. We got to get him. We want him, you know, no matter pretty much what it costs.
And he said, I have one more thing to tell you. I said, what's that, Jay? And he hung up on us.
And then I took the phone off the hook, because I knew there'd be 6 other calls.
All right, so basically it was up to us.